Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for hitting that play button for another episode of the Hetty Coleman podcast, where I have go-in conversations with fabulous people around the work that they do in order for you to do three things: for you to learn, for you to be inspired, and also for you to be able to connect with these fabulous people. Because I believe, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that community wins. And today I have Hilary Stevenson with me to talk about all the goodness that she does. Hilary does a lot of different stuff. When did we first meet? How long have we known each other?
20 years?
Maybe. Easy.
Somewhere.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's insane.
So were you at OU? No, you had graduated. Were you with Youth for Christ or People's Church?
Maybe both.
Yeah. A combination of all of that.
I started with YFC in like 2002, 3? No.
Yeah.
No, 5, 6, somewhere around there. So 15 years probably.
So were you at YFC before you were at People's?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then you were kind of doing a combination of both of them. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So that's one of my questions. So let's just start there, and then we kind of backtrack, and we just kind of be all over the place.
Yeah.
Working with students for all the years that you've been working with students,
mm-hmm.
What have you learned from students? What have you walked away and you like, oh my goodness, I think I just learned something. It wasn't me teaching them something.
Oh man, how much time you got? I mean, one of the main things that comes to mind when you say that is like people always would struggle with the word for like underprivileged or under-resourced or, trying to dance around whatever when they're describing the kids that we work with. And for me, like I came to a place where I was like underappreciated. The strengths that come from like a financial struggle when you're young.
Yeah.
Like there's so many things. Like one of the main things is like non-judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
Like especially like in the Black community, like mental health is not a big thing. So what that means is everybody just starts to accept like we got this one crazy cousin or this one crazy uncle, and like learning ways to interact with that person in such a like totally non-judgmental way.
Mm-hmm.
That like when I would have my kids, because for like 13 years I did mentoring and had kids with me wherever I went, and when they would encounter somebody who was different, they were the most comfortable people in the room. There was no like air of like we got to make everything perfect, we got to present things in a certain way, but just the interactions are so genuine. And I was like, man, there's a lot of strengths that come out of this that people aren't recognizing.
Yeah. And I think I'm starting to see more and more books like that too. Like people who were in those underprivileged or underappreciated situations, who had to deal with that struggle, who are now successful and point to their success because of that struggle and being able to work through that. Another thing, I was at this small group Bible study on Thursday at 6:30 a.m. and the speaker, who's done really well for himself, that was the thing that he pointed back to, was just him having to navigate those challenges in life, allow for him to learn how to problem solve.
Yeah.
And therefore, he's like, that's all life is problem solving, right?
Yeah.
And so that's so true.
I mean, like I was listening to Seth Godin talk about how the traditional school model that we put kids in was created like around the time of the Industrial Revolution to create compliant factory workers. Mm-hmm. This wasn't the way we always taught kids. It was to teach kids how to conform to a specific way of sitting still, staring straight ahead, doing one thing at a time, which is not the way most of our brains work, But so when I had kids and you'd put them into probably a fast food environment is where they're going to be working first, they don't necessarily do great because they don't do well with being talked to crazy by customers. And, but there's so many other arenas where they would far
thrive.
Yeah. But they don't have opportunities.
How do we get them those opportunities? Like, what does that look? That's one of the things, like every time there's this issue of race that comes up, I have this something in my heart that's like, I just want to go coach young African American.
Yeah.
So, not mentor. I want them to define a win, and we're going to discover some right things for them, and I'm going to coach you in going towards that thing. Not that they're going to achieve it, but I just think that there's more of this thing of like, let's just be super direct. Let's get some feedback, some accountability. And in that, let's teach them how to navigate in society.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, like they say, and I wish I knew what book this is from, but that like the surest path out of poverty is through a relationship with somebody not in poverty. It's the relationship.
Yeah.
It's not about the tools. It's about the exposure.
Yeah.
And so like towards the end of my days at YFC, that's what we started to kind of lean towards is like exposure. Like kids haven't ever seen people in certain environments. So it's less about what you're teaching them. Like, let's sit across the table and let me teach you. No, like just come along, like come to the grocery store with me, come have dinner with me and my family, come run errands, you know what I mean? And like let you see this different kind of life. Just kind of opens up your mind to imagine something else, even if it isn't exactly what I have, just to have had a relationship where you saw something different.
I got you. No, that's good. But yeah, that's always a struggle when I see those kind of things. With when there's this tension and stuff. It's like I just want to teach them how to just be able to navigate in all sorts of circles. I think that's exactly what you're saying. But let's just be really intentional about that. Let's set some goals for you and kind of do that. But yeah, I love it. Talking about students, let's talk. I love to get transitions in people's lives. Okay. And so let me see if you remember some of these transitions and what they were like for you.
Okay.
Middle school to high school.
Oh God, horrible. Man, I didn't ask.
Why was it horrible?
Oh my gosh, I did not do well socially in school at all.
Really?
Oh man, like I would ask like the kids that I mentor, because like I think I'm cool now, so I'll be like, what kind of kid do you think I was? You know, and they're like, oh, getting kicked out all the time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, no, like I was the sweaty kid. Like it was like I had really bad acne, I had bad teeth. I would have like sweat rings under my arms all the time. I was always nervous.
I was about to say, were you nervous, anxiety?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and part of it came from like something that I've embraced as an adult, but it was hard as a kid of like not fitting in a particular racial setting well, which really in middle school, that was like with white girls. I just didn't fit, and it didn't add up, and it didn't make sense, and I was never going to be popular because the things that were popular I didn't like, you know?
Like, you give me an example of something you like that was popular, but I did not like
The
it.
Gap. That's what was popular when I was at...
What were you trying to get to?
I didn't know.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know.
You knew you didn't like the Gap, but it wasn't like you knew, like, I wanted to go to XYZ store. Okay.
I just knew it. You know, when you're a kid, you just think you're wrong. Yeah. At least I did. Like, I'm the one that doesn't get it, or I'm the one who doesn't think, you know, like, I really think that like white kids, the struggle, like the peer pressure is to be the same, like to fit in. And like with black kids, the peer pressure is to be different. Like fitting in is terrible. Being the same as somebody else, having the same shoes or having the same whatever is not the goal. But for white kids, that is the goal. Like
I never thought
looking
about
the same, having the same hair, obviously, that wasn't going to be me. But like wearing the same colors or, you know, blending in is the goal. So that didn't work for me.
Okay, so you're saying that was for you when you were in middle school.
Yeah.
When you started working with students, would you say it's the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't work with a lot of white kids.
I was going to say, now, most of your involvement, though, was in urban schools.
Oh, yeah,
Is that the way
100%. Yeah, all of it.
School. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say, like, I liked working with the young white middle school kids because I got it. Like, I knew what that was like. And so me, comfortable in my own skin as an adult, I was able to kind of infuse them with some of that confidence. I can go in as, like, in a position of authority. But it still triggered me some. Yeah. You know, because that wasn't ever who I was bullied. Yeah. I did not. I didn't do well.
So this is middle school, going into high school.
Yeah.
Now, did you have middle school 6th through 8th grade? And then you go into 9th grade? Was it 9th through 12th?
Yeah.
Was the next grade? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my transition there was very much a cultural transition to the point where I was accused by my family of being racist against white people because like Oklahoma is still so segregated, and my school was like a art school, and you know there was so many different kinds of people, but everybody was in their little groups. It wasn't very common for people to kind of cross over, and so I got into a clique. That was the name, but we're not going to get into that. an actual clique, right? Of like my little group of friends. And it was called SBH. I had to drop the name of my clique in there. And it was just us. And then the people that I got to know through them, like if they were Black, the people I got to know through them were Black. The people I got to know through them were Black, because that's the way it is here. And so it got to the point where like my entire community was Black. And it's a weird thing. Like it almost is like I'm ostracizing white people out of my life, which wasn't the case, but you just kind of like go one direction and everybody's community looks like them. So I was just like the one other person over here, but I was comfortable, you know? So like I grew up that way, and all of my close friends and then their boyfriends and their best friends and their parents, you know? So like very much immersed in that community. So I would say that was the major transition, is I kind of found where I fit.
Yeah. And then you get into high school, navigate that. Was there anything that in high school that kind of helped you settle even more? Or is there a key moment in there that kind of helped you become who you are?
Yeah, I think like a skill I picked up in high school was like picking out individual people that I connected with, and then I would connect all of them. So like I would, and I still do it, but like I would build my own circle where like nobody else in the circle would either know each other or like be friends if it wasn't for me. But I'd be like, oh, you would like her, and you would like her, and you would like her. We're all going to go to the movies, you know? So like I kind of started crafting my own communities.
That's a pretty good skill set to have, though. You know, to be able to connect people that will really mesh.
Yeah.
You know, that's really hard for maybe you should go into HR.
Might.
Yeah.
Which, you know, and it is a very psychological thing to understand. And we'll talk more about like personality. Like that's my thing. And so I think it is at least even at that age, like a certain understanding of personality.
That's cool. Yeah, that's really good. So talk to me about that transition out of high school into college. Because where did you go to high school at?
I went to Classen.
Okay.
Classen SAS. And they say most people like make their lifelong friends in college, because your high school is like people that live around you, like geographically. Well, mine wasn't. Like Classen was taking applications from people all over the city. So Classen was a certain kind of people, and it's very different now than it was when we were there. But we were a certain kind of breed of people. And so the friends that I made in high school, I brought with me to college. And so I did make some friends in college, but even like my friends to this day, almost every single one of them I went to high school with.
Wow.
So I kind of was locked into a certain community.
Is that just because you're a loyalist? Are you like?
I am, but there was something inherent, and I think other people that went to class, and especially around my era, would say the same thing. Like there was a certain drive in us, and some of us have gone on to be like what would be traditionally successful, and some just do what they do here and don't have a particular career path, but there's still a mindset that kind of tends to connect people. And I think that that's, you know, such a small percentage of people go to college. Like that's a certain mindset that connects people on that next level. I think we just kind of had a similar mindset in high school.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of like the same kind of people, if that makes sense.
Now, where'd you end up going to college?
I went to OU.
Yep.
I loved it.
Did you love OU? What was it about OU that you loved, and was there another step in moving forward and becoming who you are, like
absolutely.
that you could identify?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I tell kids all the time, and I'm never successful with this. Like, you have to stay on campus your first year. And they don't want to, and they don't, and they stay at home. And I'm like, no, like that's the college experience, at least at OU. Like your first year is when you're like pranking people in the middle of the night and like staying up all night and, you know, going and eating jelly beans for dinner because you just figuring out. That's literally what I did. But you're just figuring things out and how to do it yourself on your own. But it's almost like a little like mock adult environment to where there's still some safety net.
Yeah.
But man, we had the best time.
They used to make you, didn't they?
They did, but you can get out of it.
Yeah.
And people do.
A lot of them do it, get out of it, yeah. No, I think so. My first year at Bethune-Cookman in Daytona Beach, I stayed on campus. You had to at that time. You couldn't have a car or anything like that. But like all the people that I was close to then are still people that I'm really connected to.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have gotten that if I wouldn't have lived on campus. So, I mean, yeah, if I wouldn't have lived on campus. So.
And there's definitely a layer of like you find out who you are.
Yeah. Did you finish in 4 or 5 years?
4.
Look at you.
I'm a nerd with honors. Drop that.
I love the way you said that. Yeah, it's like you were on it. Now, what was your major? Because I don't think what you do now versus what you did then completely different, right?
Completely different. I was a theater management major.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And theater is like the hardest possible degree. Like people think, oh, that's no. That is the hardest possible.
What makes it hard?
Everything about it. The classes are hard. They're at 9:30 every morning for the first 2 years, Monday through Friday. There's no like I pick my own schedule and I sleep in. And no, like you have class that starts at 9:30. It goes all day. And then you have all these scenes that you have to practice, rehearse, memorize. But you also have to be on a crew. So like you leave class at like 5 o'clock and you go to rehearsal where you're running the tech of the show or you're acting in the show, which was never going to be me. And then after that, you have scene practice. And they have to get up the next morning. And the teachers play no games. Like, there is no excuses for anything. And you definitely learn to work and survive off very little sleep at a super high level. And, yeah, it's a cutthroat.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So the last person on my podcast, his name was Bryson. And he did theater at OSU. Okay. And now he teaches theater. Okay. I think I'm saying that right. But yeah, that was his major, and
it's a tough major.
It sounds like it, and it reminds me of like just being an athlete, like how tough it is or in band, like people who go to school to be band. Like I'm like y'all schedule is crazy,
right? But even then, like they have throwaway classes in there too. Mm-hmm. Like there's electives. Like I had a friend that took bowling for an elective. We didn't get electives.
Didn't get a chance to do that.
They said our stuff. There was like 2 that I got to pick.
What did you pick?
Understanding racism.
That is not a blow off class. That didn't even. No. We're gonna have to let you go back.
It was in the honors program too, because I had to get a certain amount of honors classes.
Now, were you in honors in high school?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
I mean, like I never really tried hard at school.
Okay, so it just kind of comes natural.
Yeah.
Okay. See, that's not fair.
It's not necessarily.
That's what I always ask
thing.
people that when I hear about parents who have really smart kids, I'm like, is it really what you think it is, or is it just they're naturally smart?
Well, that's a soapbox of mine, so don't make me get into it because I will. Like giftedness is its own.
Yeah, it's its own thing.
It's its own disability. Honestly. Yeah.
You think it's a disability?
It is. Yeah, gifted kids need the same accommodations as special education. They need small classrooms. They need individualized education.
Is that the reason they pull them apart?
Yeah, they should.
Okay. Yeah, that's the way they do it here.
Good.
Yeah, up until I would say high. So we do junior high here. Okay. So they would separate them and have to give them their own space. Those that were gifted,
Good. And, I mean, you can literally put them in the same class as people with special education needs, because it's so similar what they need.
I've never heard that before, but it makes sense. I don't know if that's the reason they do it, but
yeah, I mean, and like kids that start off gifted, so like that's why they ask you about your kids' milestones and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. There's a myth that your kid gets a little bit ahead early and then the other kids will catch up, but that doesn't happen. Like if your kid starts off ahead, they stay ahead. That's what the research shows. So just being aware if your kid is hitting milestones, and I've done a lot of like early infant mental health and stuff. But like if your child starts hitting milestones early, like be prepared, because like gifted parents are seen also as being pushy, but really it's the kid pushing them. So like if you're pulling your kids and they don't want to be challenged, then you're out of line. But like my son, he's in kindergarten and he keeps asking me for harder work.
Really?
And I'll kind of play like to see if like, okay, they gave you harder work now, like, and then he'll do his work in 5 minutes and I'll go, do I need to ask your teacher for harder work? Thinking he's going to say no. And he's like, please. Really? I'm like, okay, that's the perfect example.
Yeah. Well, I was with some friends the other day and they were talking about they moved their kids up in math because they just weren't, and they also say a lot of kids get in trouble at school because we don't put them in the right, position to thrive.
Yeah. Well, just imagine like somebody's forcing you to do busy work of stuff that you've known for years.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. So,
Anyway.
yeah. So with that, kids,
Yeah.
perfect segue, family. Now you and your husband are kind of entrepreneurial in the things you do. And Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, we're doing this family at work panel, right? I should have thought of y'all. So anyway, what's it like? What's it like to as a family navigating that? Plus, you got a child that is gifted and pushing you. What is all that like for you? How do you manage it?
I mean, so I'm a personality nerd, and
tell us what you do.
Okay.
And then tell what your husband does.
Okay.
And then we kind of.
So I'm trained as a therapist. I actually retired my license, so I'm not a licensed professional counselor anymore because I don't want any limits on how I'm able to move throughout the world. So, and especially in like this millennial age, like I need to be able to interact with my people online. They're posting all this stuff, and I'm like ignoring it because that's my ethical duty. I can't comment. I can't repost. I can't, that doesn't serve my clients. And so, yeah, plus just I wasn't able to work with people I know, what I do is I teach. I don't do deep sexual childhood trauma. I teach relationship skills, and my community wasn't getting it. And so that didn't connect with me. So I made the decision to retire my license. So I'm a counselor, but not a licensed counselor right now. I can take it back, but I don't think I will. So I teach fully online. At this time, I've had a private practice for the last several years, and that's where I fell in love with the Enneagram, which is kind of my bread and butter. What I teach as one of my strategies that I teach. My husband, how long is this podcast? Man.
Just give a couple of highlights.
Golly, he runs the Cage, Downtown Street Ball Association, and so he does kids. He loves kids. He's a kid person. So he also works at he does kids street ball clinics, but he also works at currently, when this podcast comes out, who knows? Because we just change stuff up all the time. Yeah. But he's working with Marcus Jackson at the Bridge, doing the athletics there. He also does mentoring through the state and other things, I'm sure.
Nice. And so how do you all, with those types of schedules, raising kids, give us some tips. Like for us who are out here trying to hustle and navigate being married and family, what are a couple of tips you would give?
Well, here's something.
Just not professional, just Hilary tips.
It's all integrated. Okay, this is the way I think. Go with me. I'm a nerd, but it makes sense. Okay, so Myers-Briggs, the last letter in Myers-Briggs is a 4-letter personality type, and the last letter is either a J or a P. Okay, J is planning and structure, and P is total spontaneity. Mm-hmm. And all my life, I thought I was a J, and I'm totally not. And so at some point, early on when we were together, he's totally spontaneous. I just kind of embraced that. And so we just make it up as we go. We are the most free spirit, throw caution to the wind people ever. Yeah. We don't have a plan. We don't have a budget. We don't have structure.
But both of you all are.
Both of us are that way.
Yeah.
So usually you have one or the other that'll kind of pull the other one more towards the middle. But I think for us, it's been fun to be able to just kind of live like that. Even going on family vacations, and they'll say, "Okay, when are you guys leaving?" And we'll go, whenever it feels good.
Yeah. But you're gonna go. You just don't know when. Yeah.
We'll just kind of, and my husband calls it freestyling through life. That's what he's always done. I don't know, we just freestyle through life, but we do. And my kids are all about it. I think if my kids were well, I need expectations, my kids are I pick them up from school and they're like, "Where are we going?" I'm home. We go there sometimes, but usually we're not. We're going somewhere else.
So they don't need that structure. They seem to be thriving in this freestyling of life.
Yes.
Which is cool, right?
Yeah.
I think it's all about how can you adjust to who you are to give yourself the most success, where that's a challenge for some people to think that way.
Right.
And then I think it makes it hard for people to live life.
Yeah.
Just in my thoughts.
For sure. Me and one of my best friends, there's a group of 3 of us that spend a lot of time together, and me and one of my friends are both just totally figuring it out as we go, free-spirited people, and the other one is not, and we just freak her out all the time because we just go well, I don't know, why not? We just tell her all the time, just quit your job. What do you mean you have to work? She's like, which one of y'all is going to pay my bills?
That's right.
I'm my bills get paid.
That's the first thing people always say is who's going to pay my bills?
Mm-hmm.
So that's reason my kids, I say don't have any bills. live as minimalist as possible, is with the least as possible, because then you don't have that many confinement. Like, you don't feel that pressure to always be working in the system or whatever. I think Seth Godin talks about that in the sense of like, we really put people in these positions to where they feel like they have to do the industrial way of life. And so, that's good. So the Enneagram.
Yeah.
So the first time I think I heard about Enneagram, somebody called me and they wanted me to be on this panel. And so they said, hey, go take this test. We just want you on the panel. And I went to take the test. And so then I came in, I talked as though I knew something about the Enneagram. However, I think for them, they knew that I believed in taking these types of tests or whatever to kind of better learn who you are as a person. And then with that, then you can kind of navigate in life in a certain way, I think, better when you kind of know who you are. Yeah. Right?
Right. So you already have that underlying.
Yes, I have that already, that belief about personal growth and all that. So they knew that if I at least took it, I could somewhat get through the but you, on the other hand, have went all in not just so much on the Enneagram, but specifically right now, let's talk about the Enneagram. You've went all in on this thing. So much so I said, hey, you want to get on this podcast? You're like, yeah, I'm gonna make a link, and I see the link and it's
Enneagramvibe.com/Hetty. Yep.
You're all that lets me know you're all in on this Enneagram thing. When you have your own URL out there. Talk to me about it. Like, what do you love about it? Why do you believe everybody should take it?
So when you say take it, no. Okay. There's not an accurate quiz.
Okay.
People think, so with Myers-Briggs, for example, like there's research behind certain assessments that you can take and get a valid result. Enneagram is not that way. And so a lot of people in professional settings shy away from it because it isn't research-based. But all the research that's been done on it has been done on the quiz. So the quiz is not valid, but the system is.
Okay.
So I'll say that's kind of a fatal flaw in it, is that if you don't get the right type, it's not going to impact you and you're not going to believe in it. Like if it doesn't speak to you directly, because that's what it did to me. Like I was like, oh, they're watching me. Like, how dare you saying these things? Like, these are things nobody could know about me. And that's what made me a believer in it. So if you don't have that experience with it, you're not going to connect with it and you're going to shut it out. And so I actually created a course just for that reason. And I didn't put it out for the longest time because I wasn't trying to do all the stuff that you have to do with the course. But I created these little 5-minute videos of here's the vibe of that type. And I think you can watch that and go, that's totally me, or, oh, that's my wife, you know, because it's so specific. Like I can just meet somebody and talk to them for 5 minutes and generally have a pretty good guess
on what their Enneagram type is.
Yeah.
So what's my Enneagram? I'm looking up mine.
You're a 7.
Based on this thing. Wait, hold on a second. Let me see what they said I was. I want to say they said I was an 8.
You're not 8. You might have an 8 wing.
Wait, let me see.
You already told me you're a 7 before.
Oh, did I already tell you? Oh, we already talked to it. But wait, I thought it was 8.
Okay.
So I got too many emails. This is ridiculous. I'm gonna find this thing. So anyway, so you're going around and you're helping people better understand the Enneagram. Like, tell me what you do when you sit down with people.
So I kind of consider myself to be like the Enneagram for real people, like the Enneagram translator. Because the Enneagram language that's out there is super deep and spiritual and about the deepest fear of the darkness of your soul and blah, blah, blah. I don't think like that. Okay. So like my process was integrating it into my sessions of like, when I was doing professional counseling, how can I explain this to a person quickly in real people words that will explain to them like what they need to do in life, because that's what the Enneagram does. It just makes everything simple. Like, here's the one thing you need to do that will change your life, and it will pop up for you over and over again throughout the course of your life.
So if I'm a 7, you're saying once you understand that you're a 7 and what that looks like, you then can say, hey, here's the one thing. Yeah. So so would that be for all 7s or? Yeah. So give me my one thing.
Okay. So like leaning into the thing that you avoid.
Okay.
which for a 7 is pain and uncomfortable, dark things.
Okay.
So like 7s want to keep it light, keep it positive,
Mm-hmm.
either more towards like keep it happy, which I would kind of put you more in that category, or like be sarcastic and make jokes out of everything.
Yeah.
And so for 7s, like when people literally, I always say this, but like in my workshops, when people like are like, I put them into groups based on their number, and the 7s will be like literally high-fiving each other every single time. And I say it in my course, and I say it all the time. So people that have heard my stuff all the time will crack up because they know when I go, these are the 7s, they're going to be like, woo, high five. It's going to happen. 7s are so hyped to be 7s. They're really the only type that hear the description and go like, yeah, I am. Y'all all want to be me. That's what everybody wants, is to be
why is
energetic.
that?
And so the Enneagram is not usually, I'll say 90% of it is not the things that you like about yourself. It's not the things you're proud of. But for some of them, they look better on the surface than some of the other ones. Like for ones, for an example, everything about a 1 that you described sounds terrible. So like people that are 1s, I'll give them 6 months. Like I'll figure out they're a 1, and then I'll give them 6 months to come to terms with it.
Oh, okay.
It usually takes that long.
Yeah.
Because it's tough.
Yeah.
Like there's just not a lot of sugarcoating it.
Tell me what a 1 like.
So a 1 is like your people that have like right and wrong. They come off as kind of like harsh and judgy. It's because they have like an inner drill sergeant in their own head telling them they're wrong all the time. So they're constantly like, they correct people in love. Like if you say something wrong, if I'm a 1, I feel the need to correct you because you don't want to be out there looking dumb, so I have to correct people.
Yeah.
So like 1s are they're all about integrity. They're all about, not all the rules, but the rules that they believe in.
See, that's the thing about rule followers too. Like they be like, I'm a rule follower. You're a rule follower based on the rules that you feel like.
Yes.
Like my son, he's the Zell rule follower, and so the other day he went across the street because the sign hadn't come on.
Yes.
I'm like, but when I ask you to take out the trash, you don't follow that. Like, yeah.
And that's exactly like 1s. Yeah. And then like when I'm trying to convince them they're 1, which I've kind of stopped doing, like I'll just kind of let them have it, and then I'll come back in a month and we'll talk about it again because I know they're going to go through their own process. But like I would try to give them examples of like, well, so like my mom's a 1 because she is like, my mom won't, she's not okay with you sending your food back. Like if you just don't like it. If they messed it up, that's one thing. But if you're at a restaurant and you just don't like it, they shouldn't have to eat the cost for that. Yeah. That's on you. Yeah. So like if we're out to eat and anybody does it, it's going to just
go eat or a lot.
Yeah. So like I'll give people that example, but because that's not the one for them, they're like, oh, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know, but there's things.
Yeah.
So
1, 6 months, 7s immediately are like, I'm all over this being a 7. But in all of these different personalities, numbers, how would you say?
9, yeah, types.
All these different types. There's these things like I don't want to, like that's definitely me. Like I don't want to be put in a uncomfortable. Now as I've gotten older, like and in the work that I do, I have to sit down and have these. But I'm definitely like if I can avoid it until it like slaps me in the face, and the world sees it, I will try to avoid it at all costs, right?
Yes.
And so that's not something that I like about myself. I know that. However, I think you're saying that the cool thing about a 7 is there is this thing that seems like you're the life of the party and all that. And who doesn't like that, right? And the 7s are the only ones like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's 8 or 9?
9.
9. Okay, let's go through each one real quick.
Okay.
1s, what's the quick description of a 1?
1s are black and white, right and wrong, and they need other people to follow the rules, not just themselves.
2s?
2s are your high energy, super helpful, all about you, what can I do people.
So can I be a 7-wing 2?
No. So your wings are the 2 numbers on sides of you. So if you're a 7, 6 or 8.
So I think
you would have an 8 wing for sure.
What's the 8? Let's
get there.
3. Okay, 3.
Yeah, which like 7s and 2s, like there's some stuff like right because they're both like in one of the groups like they're both considered positive outlook types.
Yeah.
So they're both like want to see the best. But for
Go
different
in.
reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go in. That's very 2. But it's very 7 too.
Yeah,
like it's not like have hard conversations.
Yes.
It's like, woo!
Yes.
Positive.
Yeah.
Okay, so 3s, I'm a 3. 3s are chameleons. 3s can read the room and like talk like anybody. They're all about success. They're all about winning, coming across as and being seen as successful more than like necessarily have money in the bank.
Got you. Okay.
Really good salespeople, 3s. But 3s are kind of hard to pick out because they can look like anybody. They're shapeshifters.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You like that about yourself, don't you?
No. It's hard work for me to not.
So you try to just be like...
It's hard for me to just be me.
Just be, okay.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to your transitioning, right?
Yes.
Like middle school transition, really just
Because
being
you
who
put
you
me
are
in a
on
room
it.
with any group of people and I can be them.
Yeah.
I know how to talk the talk with anybody. I was sitting down with my good friend that's also a business owner because she's a 3. That's a 3. And I was trying to make a little graphic that said, "You doing too much." And I was telling her, I'm trying not to say you ''R. You are doing too much. I was like, that's not how I would say it. But I'm just sending this out into the world. And I feel like I need to conjugate my verb properly. Depending on who's going to see it.
Yeah.
Because my ideal client, well, what if she is judging me on based on... No, people want to see you and your authentic self. But for a 3, it's really tough.
Gotcha.
Especially people of different races.
Yeah.
That are living in this white culture. So choosing not to code switch when you could and make that sale, or when you could and get that job. That's really tough.
But I think, and I don't think you're not saying this is not true, but there's a time where it's kind of good to be able to, which allows some people, I feel like, which a good salesperson, I can sit down with anybody and adjust and be like, yeah.
Well, and so that's the case with 3s. And for every number, there's a thing that it's like, it's the thing that you think is good about you. It's a thing you embraced. It's a skill that you've gotten really good at. So it's really hard to tell yourself not to, but there's a cost associated with it. Like it's doing damage.
For sure.
But like for 3's example of like success. In America, it's really tough to like say that that's bad because everything is about success. So like people are feeding your need to like feel successful. So if you're like, hey, I just dropped this new course, or hey, I've got this new website, or hey, look at my new house, or people are cheering for you and that's what you want, but that doesn't mean that's always in your best interest. So it's really hard, and for a 7, same thing. Like, well, who doesn't like the life of the party? Who doesn't want it to be light and positive? Well, maybe somebody who has an issue with you that needs to talk to you. Maybe they don't like it. You know what I mean? There's a.
And that's true. I think that's very true. And then it's hard for them to want to talk to you because, everybody loves him. So I'm not going to point out, And so I have learned to try to have hard conversations as quick as possible.
Well, in 7s, we'll get there. I'll tell you my favorite thing about it. 4s, my husband is a 4. He speaks 4 better than I do. It's a different language. So like I'll bring him in and he'll say things and then I'll say it word for word how he said it in my workshop and everybody thinks I'm brilliant. All the 4s, because it's a different language. 4s are your deeply emotional, creative, but more towards the dark side. We talk about melancholy with 4s, and 4s melancholy is the happiness of being sad. Like they can just kind of be in that place and they don't want to be cheered up. Like rainy days. Type of stuff.
Like, I'm good with this. Don't try to, they get mad if you try to.
Yes.
Yeah.
They want to kind of, and like they always got to be different. So like you'll see them lurking like in the corner. Because they can't, like even like they've done studies where like they can't, like 4s can't go into like a conference where there's circle tables and just sit at a circle table with everybody else. Like they'll pull their chair away. And like I did a workshop that way where I designed it, where I put the 4s chairs separate and everybody else was on these couches. And they pull their chairs away in different ways. Like that's what they need to do. They need to be able to be unique. That's huge
Yeah.
for fours. But yeah, that dark place that they go to is really hard. Like I taught a workshop called How to Level 4 because it's really different than what most of us need.
Gotcha. Now, are your workshops like there forever, or like if you didn't come to it?
No, they've been live in the past,
Yeah.
and that's the tough thing is like I would love to like do some that people, and I just need people to just be on board with it and just dig in, and then something that people can watch later because it's so helpful. But yeah, it gets real personal.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
Got you. Fives.
When somebody comes in and tells me they're an accountant, I immediately think they're a 5, and I'm almost always right. They're very black and white. They like numbers. They like facts. They like proof. They like research. They can be socially awkward, but they don't have to be. They can be because they are analyzing all the time. They're very focused on scarcity, so there's never enough time. There's never enough money. They're all budgeted. Like there's a fear of running out. Fear of like, and they don't have a lot of energy. They're almost always introverts. And so like they can never stay long. They can never spend that much. They can never, like if your parent is a 5, like they'll never let you go.
Okay.
You can't go to the party. You can't go to the vacation. Like they're just kind of no people, which again is something people, in relationship with 5s tend to think they're wrong because the 5 is going to be the one who's being, fiscally responsible. But that can go into a dark place real fast of like, no, like it's okay to buy new jeans.
It's okay to live a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're just going to pin real quick.
Yeah.
Introvert, extrovert. Do you believe in that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so I believe it in a Myers-Briggs sense, which is where you get your energy.
Okay.
Not necessarily if you're outgoing or not. It's,
okay.
If you get drained by people, then you need to go recharge at home as an introvert. I'm all the way extrovert. So I get drained by alone time. So like I need people to recharge. So like there's a big thing like during this pandemic with people that are extroverted of like really struggling because being in the house, even if you've got a few people around, and then like introverts are like, I point at you, I'm sure you're not an introvert, but like introverts are like, yeah, we're doing Zoom meetings. And I'm like, that's an introverted thing to do. That's not, because like, I just need people around. I don't need to talk to you.
Yeah.
I just need people. I need your energy. Like I'm going to feed off of, like I like co-working spaces because
people are around.
People.
Gotcha. 6.
Oh, 6s. So 4s are, there's the least of the population. 4? No.
Okay,
I'm just going back.
Okay, good.
4s are the least of the population.
Oh,
they're the most unique. They're the fewest. 6s are the most common. Over 50% of the population.
That was going to be my last question. I was like, which one's the most? Okay, so 6s are the ones that dominate the world.
Yes. 6s are the best friend ever. They're super loyal. They're all in until you show them that you can't be trusted. Then they're all out. And you're never getting back. You might think you did.
They're done with you.
They're done.
Yeah.
6s and 2s gets mistyped a lot because they both have a lot of energy. They're both very expressive. So like a quick way to see a 6 is like if you're telling them a story and they're like, oh my gosh, like, oh, and like reacting with you.
Yeah.
That's probably a 6 or a 2. But 6s, like 5s, they're both in the fear triad of like a scarcity mentality. So like they're also have fears associated around safety. So like it might be like knowing where all the exits are, or it might be like just certain particular, like I'll say out loud in a room to see who's 6s. How many people here have texted their credit card information recently? And like the 6s will freak out.
Like what?
Yeah. Would you share your social security number with someone you don't know well? And people be like, yeah, sure. And the 6s are like, what?
Yeah.
Are you serious? Like, so that's a 6.
I got you. Yes. Yeah. Yes, most of the world are 6s.
Yeah.
Yeah. 7s.
But we need 6s because like 6s are not interested in starting their own thing. Like they want to come on board with somebody.
Yeah.
They want to believe in something.
They don't mind being the number 2 or 3.
No. They want to be on board with you.
Yeah.
And we need that.
No, I agree. 7?
So sevens, there's all kinds of really cool patterns around the Enneagram. It's really hard not to get into all of them, but like sevens are the opposite of fives, to where like fives have a fear of like the external world taking their stuff. So they're very conservative. Sevens are the opposite, where they give, do. Sevens are, like we talked about, all about positivity, all about, look at the bright side. They're spontaneous for the most part. One of my friends that's a 7 had this big breakthrough when she read that like sevens are the person who will invite a friend on a last minute road trip, where like everybody else is already planned, and they'll like talking to somebody like, you want to go? And the rest of the friends will be like, are you serious? Like, where's they going to sleep? Or, she's like, oh my gosh, I do this all the time.
Yeah. Like they sleep on the floor. Like, what is the big deal? Like,
I was talking to her. She's excited. The more the merrier. Why not?
Yeah. But I think we're like that with a lot of things in life.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, you want to jump on this podcast tomorrow?
Yes.
Like, it's no big deal. Like, yeah. Because I'm like that with just about everything.
Well, and sometimes sevens will start a lot of things, but not necessarily finish a lot of things well. So they can kind of leave other people holding the bag sometimes.
Yeah.
Where they'll like invite somebody to dinner, but they're not gonna be the one to cook it.
Yeah.
Or
My
like have a party, but they're not gonna clean up because they got something else to do. So
yes.
They can kind of be the fun one. They can be the good cop, and kind of somebody else will be kind of stuck being the bad guy.
Now I will start stuff. But now I try to like, who can I hand it up? Like, who wants to come alongside? Who's that 6? I guess it's a 6. Who's that 6 that would want to, or is it 5 that doesn't mind? No, 6.
6.
Yeah. Like, who is that person that I think enjoy this, would come along? And if you need me to kind of still be the face of this thing, but you do the work, like, just because you enjoy it.
Yes.
Like, now I try to do that more.
And that's like working within what you've learned about yourself. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So sevens, one of the things that I go easy with sevens because they don't like criticism. So talking about the fact that they don't like criticism is kind of a criticism. So like what I say about sevens when I'm trying to figure out if somebody's a 7 is like, how do you like if like somebody sits down and tells you something that you've done that upset them or something they don't like about you? And they're like, oh no, I can hear that. It's like, what if they want to do it over and over? They're like, oh no. Like a 7 will hear your complaint once and then we're done.
Yeah.
I heard you out.
Let's move on.
Why are we still on this? So you hate me then. So, and you can see a 7.
What do you want me to do about this? Like,
exactly.
Like it's done and over with.
Yeah. Why are we still on this? And you can see a 7, like the whole big happy energy, like switch real quick.
Yeah.
And they don't want to deal in the details. They don't want to go in the dark side.
Why? Like, why do we want to, why do we need to keep digging?
Well, for one thing, negative emotions still exist, even when you ignore them.
But we've addressed it though.
Yeah, but that is
we've addressed it, right? And there's no going back.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why do we have to keep talking about it?
Well, because
I'm sorry I slapped you.
Because you've addressed. See, that might take more than one conversation. Just saying.
I'm so sorry I slapped you. I told you this over and over again. Yes. Yeah.
But what a 7 is afraid of, and you have to sit with this one, okay? But a 7 is afraid of their own darkness. So like they're afraid of anything in them that doesn't feel good. They would rather just avoid. And when you don't express any kind of negative stuff, it just builds and builds and builds. And then, I actually met with a 7 one time and he was like, and he's just a casual friend, and I'm like, how's it going, 7? He's like, I don't know, I can't stop crying. And I'm like, no, you a long time, I've never seen you cry. Yeah. And he's like, I don't know what it is. I don't know. And he had pulled a book out of his bag that said something like, why grown men cry or something like that. Yeah. And like was looking for answers because he couldn't figure out, I'm not even upset. I'm happy. Everything's great, but like those things still exist. Yeah. And the way through fear, the way through pain, the way through anger is to experience it, feel it, express it, connect, and let it out. And also emotions, especially the negative ones, are where intimacy is built in relationships through the expression of that emotion. So like there's a lot of reasons that those things are, but on the outside, we all go, what's wrong with the cup half full? Why not?
Yeah.
Well, a lot.
Yeah. That's good.
Also, 7s stay busy to avoid those things.
Yeah.
So they'll just like, on to the next,
Okay, let's move on to 8s. Thank you.
whole counseling session. I feel like you have to kind of break it down a little bit because 7s is.
Now, you didn't stay on any other one this long. You just trying to.
That's because anybody else high-fiving about their number. I gotta let 7s know, y'all
ain't all that. 8s.
8s are your people that intimidate people. They're very direct. They're comfortable expressing anger. But like I was just saying, like once you express anger, it's gone. So they don't hold on to things. So like an 8, if they have a problem with you, they're going to tell you. And for a lot of us, that feels intimidating. But it's in love. But in the same way that like a 1 might criticize you in love or critique you or correct you, an 8 is going to just confront you. And so what I have kind of learned about 8s is they have this like childlike innocence about them to where like they will never hurt a fly, but they're the people we're intimidated by and kind of scared of, but they have no like malice and like a negative intention for someone is like bad, but like they would never do those things. But because they're kind of scary, people have been telling them that they're, I don't know if I can cuss on your podcast, they're jerks. Like they're bad people, like their whole life. So they believe that. And I have to really sit them down and convince them that there's an innocence to them because they don't believe it.
I can see that.
But they're abrasive, kind of harsh, direct people, but then it's gone and they are still your friend,
So all numbers have issues.
Yes.
We all have issues, but there's positive in all of it, meaning like there's good. We are all needed, and in these understanding these types allows for us to interact and build better relationships.
Yeah. So you just gonna skip over 9s?
Oh, I forgot about 9s. I'm so sorry.
Messed up.
Any of you 9s out there listening or watching, I'm so sorry.
See, the 9s are like, it's okay, no problem. So like 9s are your peacemakers.
Oh, well, there we go. I did that on purpose.
Yep. They're like, don't even worry. You're good. I don't even want to talk about it anyway. 9s are your, they get mistyped with 2s a lot. But 2s are like your, oh, hey, how are you? Oh, that's great. And 9s are all about other people and how they feel and what they want. But it's mostly because they just kind of want you to stop talking about it. They would just like everything to be kosher. Like they don't necessarily feed off of and need to help you, but they just will. So you're not upset. So 9s are anti-conflict people. If they see conflict, they kind of translate between 2 people. Oh, here's what he meant. Like he didn't mean it like that. Just so they can, 9s are your most low energy people. And if you gave them the option, they would just do nothing. Like that just would like to do nothing, sit in silence. And that sounds fantastic.
Are they more of an introvert type of?
They can be, but not always.
They don't have to be.
I know some that are, and I know some that are not. But yeah, they have a very hard time advocating for themselves. They like harmony. So one of the things that I've read that I think is really cool is like the harmony isn't complete without your part, So like if you're wanting to just listen to a choir, but you're the alto, then it's missing your voice. Yeah. You're needed in order to balance things. I see a lot of 9 and 8 marriages to where like the 8 will be the most dominant, expressive one, and the 9 will just kind of fall back. But sometimes they need that 9 to kind of pull them back because the 9's going to have a unique perspective and kind of need to kind of reel them back in a little bit, but the 9 won't. And so the 8 can kind of become too much, Is there
a family Enneagram?
What do you mean?
I think it would be cool if like there could be like some sort of family Enneagram, like that's a 9 family.
Oh, no, like that's people are all different numbers.
They are, but I was wondering like if there could be something. I just think it'd be cool if people but no, that would be really hard. But
I've hardly ever seen anybody in a long-term relationship that are the same numbers. I did see 7 and 7 and it didn't work out.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
There was something wrong with those 7s.
No, they didn't connect because they didn't express emotion. So everything was just like cool. Cool.
Okay, well, here's the thing too. Like in your type, you have to mature.
Yes.
Like you have to. I can't blame. I got to be able to adjust and deal with all the types, right?
Right.
And there has to be a little bit of each type in every person.
There is.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah.
But your type is your stuff. Like, it's your issues. So, like, the more unhealthy you are, the more obvious your type is.
Yeah.
You know, like, the more, and I think a lot of us, like, we just figure it out. Like, as you get older, you kind of grow and mature. But some people aren't necessarily still facing the thing because their thing is something that people celebrate.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, that's good. So, kind of wrapping it up, thinking this through, you would say learning your type allows for you to have better relationships and connect with people better.
Yeah, and I think your type.
So let me say this one thing. So learning your type, but then also is it important to learn other types as well? Okay.
Yes.
Or at least the person that you're in the relationship with?
For sure. And like in Enneagram world, it is very like faux pas to type other people. I don't believe in that. I used to, but I'm like, if I can know your type and then it gives me a key of how to communicate with you, why would I not? It doesn't mean I'm always going to be right, but it's a trial and error. So like if my husband's a 4, if I know what a 4 needs from me, then I can at least just try that.
Yeah.
And if he's not a 4, it won't work.
Yeah.
But if he is, then it will.
Yeah.
You know, because otherwise what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to him how I would talk to me.
Yeah.
You know, like treat people how you want to be treated is very flawed.
Yeah. No, I think so. I think just in working with the relationships over the years that I have, like I think a lot of this, again, that's the reason I believe in doing the personality types and things like that, because I think it helps really understand who we are as people and be able to communicate with people better, be able to adjust to people better.
Right.
But you can't be selfish in that, you know. I think you have to be very selfless to a degree.
Yeah.
To be able to interact with people.
Yeah.
And let people be themselves.
I agree with that some. I work primarily with women, and women tend to be the one to adjust in relationships. So like a lot of my work, I'm
sorry, are you allergic to cats? My cat just came. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a FYI, the cat just came on.
I'm awkward around pets because I don't really know how to interact with them. I don't have an issue about like, hey there, high five.
Yes.
But no, I'm not allergic.
But go ahead.
I think women tend to over adjust and then harbor resentment from it. And so I kind of teach people to be more of who they are. But I think what the Enneagram does is rather than like concede, like, well, they like that, so I'll give them that. It gives you like you can see their heart better. And so it gives you a genuine empathy. So like I can look at my husband and I can go, gosh, that must be tough. You know, not like, oh, well, you just want to lurk in the corner. Here you go.
Yeah.
And I can convince myself like, just let him do it because that's what you're supposed to do to be a good wife. But instead I can go like, man, that emotion he's feeling is real. And man, I'm so grateful that I don't have to do that. How hard would that be? Yeah. You know, to have a genuine compassion for what they're going through makes you able to make a genuine adjustment rather than a compromise.
Yeah, and I think that's where I don't want people to compromise themselves, but yeah, I think just making adjustments when needed. But sometimes you got to compromise.
So like I think compromise in a relationship is like the same way that like I don't want to drive on a bridge that's compromised. Like I think compromise in the traditional sense as we understand it compromises relationships.
So compromising in the sense of like, oh, you want to go to this restaurant? Yeah, I can go. I don't mind.
Well, it depends on if you mind or not. So women will say, I don't mind, but we do.
But what? So are you saying that? Okay, if you mind, so just because I may like, well, I really don't want to go there, but I'm okay going. Are you saying that's where women are at, or typically?
No. Like I think that's what men would say. Oh, I don't want that, but I'll go. And if they're like, oh, I really don't want that, they'll say, I really don't want that. And of course, you know, there's a gender stereotype, but like women are more likely to go, oh, that's what you want. And then they'll have this whole internal dialogue. Like, dang, I really wanted pizza. But I know he don't like pizza. Pizza upsets his stomach. And we've been having pizza. And he's going to complain later if we have pizza. So like, I just won't even say anything. Okay, Chinese is cool.
Yeah.
But that's not what's actually happening. And we think we can like tell our bodies don't mind, you know, pick your battles. No, your battles pick you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think you can choose if you mind or not.
So is it okay to say, well, why don't you get pizza and I get Chinese and we go back to the house.
I mean, I don't even think you have to. Well, so that gets into masculine, feminine. So I teach a masculine, feminine whole thing, but like, it's more about expressing this is what I want than having to solve it.
So if that's what you want, and I want Chinese,
we can both win. Go win. Hashtag.
I'm just saying, is that not?
Yeah, I mean, like, there may be days that like pizza sounded good, but Chinese sounds good too. Mm-hmm. Or there may be days where it's like, I really don't want Chinese. And then he says, I really do. And I go, okay, we can get Chinese.
Gotcha.
But I've been honest.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm always going to get.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like half the time, he don't even know.
Yeah. But let him know.
Yeah. And then the next day he's like, well, I want sandwiches. And in our head, we're like, oh, well, you want sandwiches. So apparently that's what we're going to get. Because that's what we always do. Yeah.
Yes.
But then we tell ourselves, don't do that. Don't be, you know. But then it happens 10 days in a row. And then you explode over something else.
Yes. Make it safe to connect is the way that, you know. So that's good. How can people find your courses? HilaryStevenson.com. Hilary with one L, Stevenson with the V. I've got, my bread and butter of life, my passion is my course called Stress-Free Love, which is teaching women proven techniques that work in relationships. I think a lot of times we think that our options are put up with it or leave. That's the only options we have. Where there's like 10,000 steps between there and things that we do have power in that we're not taking advantage of. Like saying, well, I don't want that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't mean I'm going to get it or not get it, but we don't know. There's so much that women don't know. And I could talk about this forever, but just the fact that, like, by and large, the at least media, but books, publishing, everything is controlled primarily by men, almost exclusively. And so those are the messages that we've gotten. And we're getting better, but still, like, be like men. Yeah. You know, be less emotional, be less this, be less that, you know. But most men don't want to be in a relationship with a man. So why do we think we're supposed to be him? So then we're spending all this time trying to be him. It's not even what he wants. He's just going like, what do you want? You know, like that little meme of like, what do you want to eat? Like, what do you want? And we're like, well, whatever you want. But that's not true. We drive ourselves insane. So I teach women how to exist and how to be okay in a relationship and give the person the freedom to be them, feel how they feel, do what they do, and I choose to accept it or not. And at the end of the day, there are certain deal breakers, you know, but it's not everything. But that doesn't mean that I have to just be in a constant state of misery and stress, which is what women do in relationships. And men don't even know that.
That's good. Good.
So Stress-Free Love, and then I have the Enneagram Vibe, which is my free Enneagram course, which is what I offer as don't take a quiz, do this.
Okay.
So yeah. And
but then you only do that periodically, right?
No, that's the online free one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So
I can go there. I'll link it up in my description.
Yeah, EnneagramVibe.com/heady is the one for your...
Okay, awesome. Oh, so they can go to that?
Yeah.
Look at you.
Yeah, they can go. That's for your listeners, and then there's a
all right.
A
special... Go listen, because I want her to know that I just want to know that I have some listeners. So go listen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's free. Cool. So yeah, there's that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for hitting that play button for another episode of the Heady Coleman Podcast. Let's give it up for Hilary. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, go win.